Welcome everybody. It's been a while since I've done this, so had some personal stuff going on and been sick. I actually have a little bit of a sinus infection right now. Um, Welcome to August. The Orioles are still bad, and we already knew that. So it's decent weather here in Baltimore in the 70s, and the Orioles will be home, I think, this weekend against the Athletics, since they don't have an actual city name attached to them these days. One thing I'm going to announce, because I haven't sent it out yet, we're not going to do our annual game at Camden Yards for those of you who've been interested. We were going to do it the last homestand of the season, but probably because the team isn't very good and we were going to do it on a weeknight, we haven't gotten enough interest to really entertain the option going forward. So if we can't get 20-25 people, it's really kind of a no-go. So I'll be sending out that official announcement that we're not going to have a Camden Yards group event this season, but next year we'll try to do it maybe earlier in April or May when people are a little bit more excited. Unfortunately, the weekends at Camden Yards in September are Dodgers and Yankees, which makes the ticket prices a little bit more extreme. And we didn't want to try to do one of those games because it would be really a lot of money to do a pregame party with a ticket. So, yep, we'll just have to bite the bullet and wait till next year. So, I don't know where Dan is coming from tonight, but he is our presenter, and I have made him co-host, so he should be able to share his screen. He's going to talk about his new book, The Baseball Bible.
Okay, I'm ready when you are.
Yeah, go right ahead. You should be able to, let me see, share screen. You should have host tools.
I see, share. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so
Now I just have to figure out how to. I've had computer issues all day today, but you can see the background there, right?
we can see your background. Yep.
Being an Orioles fan is great compared to being a Braves fan this season. I'm a Braves fan for life, and I'm waiting until next year, and I've been waiting until next year since April. It's been a ridiculous season. But we're here to talk about the new baseball Bible, and unfortunately, you're going to have to pretty much stick with me as opposed to any sharing that I can do. Although I could probably show some pictures if I could possibly figure out how to do this. I'm a techno nerd, but I'm going to do what I can here. Down here it says share. You were.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, you're.
Oh, there you go.
Oh,
This is what I see when I open my computer.
Yep.
Ozzie Albies and Ronald Acuna Jr. Ozzie Albies is short-lived for the Braves. He is virtually certain to be traded this winter. If somebody wants an old, broken-down second baseman at age 28, you can have him. He used to be a 30-homer, 100 RBI guy. This year, be lucky if he hits 10 home runs. But what's happened to the Braves is mostly their pitching. Everybody got hurt. I mean, seriously hurt. And plus, they didn't hit. So that combination is fatal. And I think they might even finish behind Washington. They could finish last and lose 100 games. But let's talk about, let me see if I can find my picture file here. If I can show you some really good stuff. But it's all underneath here. I say, it's all underneath the pictures that are here of you guys. So I don't know how to get it out. I'm looking to see if it might be someplace else. But I had computer issues all day. So I'm just going to talk about my book, which is called The New Baseball Bible, Notes, Nuggets, Lists, and Legends from Our National Pastime. This book originally came out as the baseball catalog in 1980. It was a book of the month called Alternate. It's had 12 updates since and 3 publishers, and the expansion has been enormous. This year's book, when it came to my house, first thing my wife said, this book is too heavy, nobody's going to buy it. They changed the paper stock to a silk glossy stock, and they have color photography for the first time. That was a surprise to me. I didn't know they were going to have color photography. So what can I tell you? Anyway, I'm back to me again. Let's see if I can do anything with my picture. View profile, maybe. Spotlight for everyone. Hide self view. No, we don't want to do that. Let's see. View profile. I don't know what this is going to do. No, it doesn't do anything. Okay. Anyway, I'll go back to the share because at least you can see these guys. There you go. And you can see some baseball in the background. This is a long time ago because Braves don't usually win. But anyway, my book is different than any other baseball book that came out this year because it is both a coffee table book and a bathroom book. You can put it in your bathroom, pick it up, read it backwards, find something on every page that'll make you say, gee, I didn't know that. And it's also a coffee table book. You can read it the regular way. The book is not at all chronological. It's written by topics rather than time. So you can pick it up and read anything you want to read. If Woody Allen were naming the book, it would be called Everything You Wanted to Know About Baseball But Were Afraid to Ask. It's got just about everything in it, including a beautiful color picture of Shohei Ohtani being licked by his dog Decoy. That's my favorite picture in the whole book. And this year with color, it really made it. So that is the cover chapter on the rules section because Ohtani is a designated hitter. So that is under rules. DH is one of the baseball rules that came along. And speaking of rules, I wrote a lot about the new rules in the last few chapters of the book. The last update of this book came out in 2020. So it's been 5 years. And I believe that the last 5 years have seen more baseball changes than any previous 5 years in baseball history. There's so many things are different. And not all the rules changes are good. For example, what I call the Manfred Man, which is the 10th inning free runner, I think is a travesty that makes baseball look like a Sunday beer league. It's totally unprofessional, terrible. It's almost as bad as having the All-Star game end with a home run derby. The only home run derby that I liked was the one way back in the 50s and early 60s when they would have Mano and Mays or Hank Aaron and Eddie Matthews, one-on-one, not some guy hitting batting practice for 50 pitches. That's just ridiculous. And it's just another money grab in baseball. And it's too bad that we have money grabs in baseball. But then again, we now have baseball affiliated with gambling interests. Talk about money grabs, and they wonder why their players being investigated for gambling. It's because Major League Baseball is encouraging them, despite the sign in the clubhouse that says you are not allowed to bet on baseball games. And I wonder if Pete Rose, when he was manager of the Reds for 5 years and finished second all 5 of those years, I wonder if he bet on the Reds to lose games, because a manager can bet on his team to lose. He cannot bet on his team. He cannot make his team win, let's say. He can make his team lose, put in the wrong pitcher, the wrong relief pitcher, the wrong starting lineup. There are many ways that a manager can lose a game. But winning is a lot harder than losing. So I'm just wondering about Pete Rose. Also, my prediction for the Hall of Fame, class of 2027, Pete Rose will not get on the ballot. The problem there is there's so many incumbent Hall of Famers on that 16-man ballot. They may not approve him for the ballot. If they don't, he won't even get voted on. And if he does make the ballot and does get voted on, he'll never get past the voting panel. For the same reason, too many incumbent Hall of Famers in that panel who think that Rose lied for 25 years, he hurt the game, and he didn't come clean when he should have. Andy Pettitte, on the other hand, did apologize early on, and I think he deserves another look for the Hall of Fame. In fact, take a look. Andy Pettitte's numbers were better than CC Sabathia's. So I think Andy Pettitte definitely should be in the Hall of Fame. And somebody's going to ask me about Shoeless Joe. Yes, he should be in the Hall of Fame. 375 in the 1919 Black Sox World Series. The best player in either team. Didn't take any money. Didn't even know what was going on for the most part because he was illiterate and couldn't read. So Shoeless Joe should be in. No to Pete Rose. Sorry if there are any Reds fans I offended out there, but I just don't think Pete Rose deserves to be in. For next year Hall of Fame, by the way, I think we're going to see 2 guys elected by the writers, Andrew Jones and Carlos Beltran. Both of them got over 65% this past vote, and they're the strongest holdover candidates, and there are no strong first ballot candidates. You might take issue with that. You might say, well, Cole Hamels but he's really not a strong first ballot candidate. So I think next year we also may see the Veterans Committee. They're going to be voting on people that made their maximum influence in the 80s or later. You could have Don Mattingly, you could have Dale Murphy, possibly Thurman Munson. So you could have a lot of guys whose names begin with the letter M making the Hall of Fame. I think Dale Murphy should have been elected a long time ago, but he wasn't. Don Mattingly had a rather short career, and that's probably why he didn't make it. But now he's been a manager and a player. So I think Don Mattingly should get another look. So we'll see what happens with that. Getting back to the new baseball Bible, as I said, it's one-stop shopping for the baseball fan, whether you're an avid fan or a casual fan. There are chapters on concessionaires, peanut vendors, Roger Owens making the longest opening day throw. He was a peanut vendor in Dodger Stadium, made the longest opening day throw. There's a section on presidents at the ballpark. Did you know that Harry Truman was ambidextrous and once threw out the opening day pitch with both hands, not at the same time, one lefty and one righty, threw out 2 opening day pitches. He's the only president ever to do that. And Hank Aaron, whose book I wrote last year, my second Hank Aaron biography, I found out in doing my research that 4 Democratic presidents, credited Hank Aaron campaigning for them with helping them win the White House. Jimmy Carter, Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, and Joe Biden all said that Hank Aaron's campaigning for them helped them win the White House. Hank Aaron was quite a civil rights advocate, coming from Atlanta, where Ralph Abernathy lived. Martin Luther King was from there. Anthony Young. Many civil rights leaders were from Atlanta, and their influence on Hank Aaron was profound. So once he retired from baseball, and remember all the hate mail that Hank Aaron got, he went into promoting what he thought were the right causes, civil rights and baseball players. And he once asked one of the guys, he asked Andrew Young, what can I do to advance the cause of civil rights? And this was when Hank Aaron was still playing. And Andrew Young said, just keep on doing what you've been doing and you'll be fine. Just wanted him to lead by example. Dusty Baker wrote the foreword of that Hank Aaron book, by the way, and told me that Aaron would get all these hate letters and just throw them on the floor in the clubhouse so that the other black players could read them. He never talked about it, but he did want them to know what was going on. And he did tell Dusty Baker and also Ralph Garr not to sit next to him on the bench in case he got shot. This is what we were up against in the 70s. Just incredible. And the reason Aaron left Atlanta and went back to Milwaukee with the Brewers, he asked to be traded to the Brewers because the Braves refused to give him a position with authority in the front office. Once Ted Turner bought the team, that was in 1976, he offered Hank Aaron the position of farm director, and Aaron agreed and went back to Atlanta. And as farm director, Hank Aaron had 2 very difficult jobs. One was releasing his son, Larry Aaron. He just told him he wasn't good enough and he wasn't going to make it. And he said, Larry, get your education and go back to school and be a teacher. And Larry Aaron did that in the Milwaukee system and also was a scout for the Milwaukee Brewers for 24 years. The other difficult decision Hank Aaron made as farm director was to cut a guy named Brian Snitka 49 years ago. He was a catcher who couldn't hit. And he offered Brian Snitka a job of coaching in the minor league system. Obviously, that took root because Aaron was a coach. Snitka was a coach, a manager, and he lasted all these years. This is his 49th year in the Atlanta organization. His contract is up this year. He might retire. If he does come back next year, will be his 50th year in the Atlanta organization. My guess is he's going to retire. He's the oldest manager in the National League, and he had a very tough year this year with all those injuries. The guy's not hitting. And signing Jurickson Profar for 3 years for $142 million, that really was a terrible decision. And you know he got suspended for 80 games after playing only 4 games this season. And he's back now, but he's still not playing well. And he's been dropped out of the leadoff spot way down in the lineup now. So in tonight's game, I think he's batting 6th for the Braves. But there's so many things that you should know about the new baseball Bible. And the reason it got that name, the Sporting News used to call itself the Bible of Baseball. And therefore, I thought that my book should be the new baseball Bible. because it's laid out to look like the old Sporting News with a lot of sidebars, a lot of art pieces, a lot of things that you'll find in every page. You can just leaf through it and read little things every day on every page and really enjoy it. There's a section in this book on media, broadcasting, newspapers, expansion, everything you want to know about baseball. And I just love putting it together. One of my favorite things was the managers chapter. I have a section on the Chicago Cubs having no managers for a bunch of years in the 60s when they had a rotating board of head coaches. And after that totally failed to do anything for the team, the Wrigley's decided they better hire a manager, and they hired Leo DeRocher. And after a couple of years, he got that team going and almost beat out the 1969 Mets. They say that the Cubs, who were then playing all daylight games, were worn out by the heat in Chicago because of their all daylight menu. And that's why they wilted at the end of the season, and the Mets passed them and won by 8 games. So that's about the Cubs rotating board of head coaches. Also, did you know that there are 3 different Wrigley Fields? There's the one in Chicago, the one in LA, where they actually filmed Home Run Derby, the original one on TV, and where the Angels played the first couple of years they were out there. There's also one on Catalina Island, California, where the Cubs had spring training for many years in the 50s and 40s. There was a Wrigley Field out there because everything was owned by the Wrigleys. The whole island, Catalina Island, and the ball club and the stadium, they're all owned by the Wrigleys. So that was Wrigley Field too, and the one in Chicago and the one in LA. 3 Wrigley Fields. There's a chapter in this book on trades, one of my favorite trades, Frankie Frisch for Rogers Hornsby, a real blockbuster trade. Rogers Hornsby was a big star for the Cardinals, but he was traded to the New York Giants for Frankie Frisch, who was a great star of the Fordham Flash for the New York Giants. A real early blockbuster trade. There's also a section on Hank Aaron versus Babe Ruth. It tells you what advantages each one of them had in their home run race. Ruth had 342 lifetime. Aaron hit well below that. But Ruth didn't have relief pitchers. He didn't have to worry about night baseball, coast-to-coast travel. So there are many factors that made Ruth's numbers inflated over Aaron's numbers that came years later. Plus, Ruth was white and Aaron was black. And how good would Hank Aaron have been if he were white and didn't have to deal with all the hate mail and threats on his life and threats against his family? In fact, on April 8th, 1974, when Hank Aaron broke Babe Ruth's record, his children were not there. They were with their biological mother in Jacksonville, Florida, because Aaron was worried about their safety. There were so many threats against Aaron and his family. He did not want his kids to take a chance and be on the ball field or even in the ballpark. So that's why Aaron's kids were not there. There's a section on umpires in the book. I also co-authored a book with Al Clark, who was an umpire for 26 years in the major leagues. And when I worked with Al Clark, I asked him, I said, Al, Bobby Cox was ejected a record 158 times. How many times did you eject him? And Al said, oh, I never ejected him. I said, what do you mean you never ejected him? And Al said, well, to be ejected, you usually had to say something that started with the word you. Bobby knew not to do that. He never did. He might cuss and swear a lot, but he never said any personal insult, and therefore I never ejected him. But Al Clark did eject Frank Robinson during the national anthem. So I said, all right, Al, you got to tell me this story. And Al said, well, I had a rule. My rule was if you have an argument one day, the next day you start fresh and you forget about that argument and you start clean slate. So Frank was managing, I think it was the Cleveland Indians at that time. And he comes out with the lineup card and starts up with Al Clark with yesterday's argument. And at that point, Al wasn't going to just turn the other cheek. So he argued back. And the two of them were really going at it when the national anthem started. And they're still arguing during the national anthem. So I said, okay, Al, so what happened? Al said, well, the league didn't like that. They fined us and suspended us. And I said, if you had it to do over again, what would you do? And Al said, I would wait till the damn song ended. So I thought that was a great story. Also in this book, I have a piece on my blind broadcaster friend, Ed Lucas. Some of you may have heard of Ed. He holds the record for going to the most consecutive openers at Yankee Stadium. 63 consecutive openers Ed went to as a reporter and a broadcaster. Ed would interview players, and even though he was blind, he could still play the tapes back on the radio stations that bought his tapes. So Ed Lucas was quite a character and a great guy too. He passed away, but Ed Lucas and I were friends for over 50 years. Also like to talk about ballparks. There's a section of ballparks. I've been to every major league ballpark. In fact, I completed the circuit last year, all 30 parks. And what do you think happened? Oakland moved to Sacramento, and Tampa Bay moved from St. Petersburg to Tampa. So now I've got 2 new parks, although I've been to George Steinbrenner Field in spring training. So I don't know if that counts as a major league park or not, but I've been to that stadium. But I still have to get to the one in Sacramento. So next time I get out to California, that's the one I'm going to get to. But I think the section of ballparks is very enjoyable. And it's also many of the pictures that are in that section too. There's a section on equipment. There's a section on owners. There's a section on commissioners. In fact, if you can think about it, there's a section on virtually everything in baseball, because it is one-stop shopping for the baseball fan. The cover of the book is interesting because, and I'm going to hold it up and see if anybody can see it. I am holding it up, but kind of trying to hold it up here. There's Bob Feller. He's on the cover. Well, he's one of 8 players on the cover. I had quite an interesting discussion with my editor trying to decide who are we going to put on the cover. We wanted to represent New York, so we've got Tom Seaver. We've also got Derek Jeter. We wanted to represent Rules and Boston, so we had Big Papi. We wanted to represent the best home run tandem of all time, so we have Hank Aaron and Eddie Matthews. They had 4 more home runs as teammates than Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig. We wanted to represent the Negro Leagues. We have a big section on Negro Leagues baseball. So I put Josh Gibson on the cover. And of course, Shohei Ohtani, he's on the cover to represent all the influx of players from Japan. Ichiro, who just got into the Hall of Fame, was the first position player from Japan, but there have been many since, Hideki Matsui and many others I can tell you about. And Bob Feller's on the cover in the bottom left-hand corner to represent not only the 40s, but also baseball during the war years. I asked Bob Feller once, I said, Bob, you never won 300 games. Do you regret that? And Feller, who won 266 games, said, well, I was in World War II in the Navy, and I was there for 3.5 years. I won 8 battle stars. We won World War II, so that was probably more important than 300 wins. Probably? Of course, probably. So that's how the cover was put together for the new Baseball Bible 2025 edition. It says 3rd edition on the cover. That is because it's the 3rd edition published by my current publisher, which is Sports Publishing, which is under the umbrella of Skyhorse Publishing. But if you're a fan of any team, you will find everything you want to know about your team in the index in this book. There's a very long, very detailed index that will tell you what page you can find Ernie Banks or Don Kessinger or Marquise Grissom or anybody you can think of in baseball, including many minor leaguers. There's a section on Mo Berg. Now, Mo Berg is one of my favorite characters in baseball history. He played during the 30s. He was a very light-hitting catcher, but also a very smart guy. He spoke about 15 different languages. So in 1934, Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig were sending an all-star team to Japan. The US government asked Mo Berg to go on the team as a spy. He was put on the team because he spoke so many languages. On the first day of their 10-day cruise, Babe Ruth said, Mo, do you speak Japanese? And Mo Berg said, no, I don't, Babe. Then they get to Japan, and Mo Berg is the first one off the boat, can't wait to greet the Japanese delegation in fluent Japanese. So Babe Ruth said later, Mo, you told me you didn't speak any Japanese. And Mo said, yeah, babe, but that was 10 days ago. He studied Japanese on the cruise. Amazing guy. And Japanese was no easy language to learn. And by the way, the pictures Mo Berg used that he snapped on that trip with his little Minox camera were later used by General Jimmy Doolittle when he bombed Tokyo in 1942. There's an exhibit on Moberg in the Baseball Hall of Fame. Don't miss it. It's really a worthwhile exhibit. And speaking of the Hall of Fame, I was just there and I saw the brand new Yakyu exhibit. Yakyu means baseball in Japanese. It's a history of baseball in Japan. Extremely well done. It's on the third floor of the Baseball Hall of Fame. If you're planning any trips to the Baseball Hall of Fame this summer, and I urge you to go, especially if you've never been there, make sure you go and you see that exhibit. It's really, really well done. And Baseball Hall of Fame was great. At inductions this year, it was a little bit disappointing that we didn't have more people. They estimated the crowd at about 45,000, which is less than half they anticipated for Ichiro. So I asked Jay Smith, who's the head of sports travel and tours, Jay, didn't you expect to have a whole bunch more buses? And Jay said, I was planning on 33 buses. We only had 11. So I said, what happened? He said, Ichiro was elected. And then 2 days later, President Trump signed 200 executive orders and scared the Japanese, who are very conservative. And many of them, thousands of them, canceled their plans. So sports travel and tours, instead of having 33 buses, only had 11. Amazing story. And interesting to note also, Ichiro was elected to the Japanese Hall of Fame 1 week before getting into the US Hall of Fame. And I thought it was very interesting too that Ichiro gave his speech in English. And somebody asked him about that because he always used an interpreter. And Ichiro said his wife wrote the speech. He wrote the speech in Japanese. His wife translated it into English, and then he was able to read it in English. The next day, when they had the Hall of Fame roundtable at Doubleday Field, Ichiro spoke only in Japanese with an interpreter. So it was interesting to see him speak in English to the large group and then in Japanese to a much smaller group. They probably had about 7,000 or 8,000 people in the stands at Doubleday Field that day. But it was really interesting to be there. They only had the living Hall of Famers, the 3 living ones. Dave Parker passed away, Dick Allen passed away. So they had Billy Wagner, CC Sabathia, and Ichiro. And there was a lot of banter going on back and forth. And CC Sabathia said, I didn't think you could hit my fastball, Ichiro. So he threw him 2 fastballs in one game. Ichiro hit both of them for home runs. And Ichiro did not hit that many home runs, but he could hit CC Sabathia's fastball, and he never threw it to him again after that. And speaking of pitches to hit, Hank Aaron told me that when Tom Seaver first came into the National League, he would strike out Hank Aaron often. Aaron struck out 7 times against Tom Seaver during 1967, Seaver's rookie year. But Aaron learned how to face Seaver. He never struck out more than once in any season after that. And by the way, I should mention, Hank Aaron's batting average against Sandy Koufax was .362. His batting average against Steve Carlton was .342. So he could hit the big guys really, really well. There's a section on pennant races, memorable moments. Everything you want to know about baseball is in this book. I urge you to get it from Amazon.com. It's much cheaper that way. I'm also doing a number of signings in New Jersey. If anybody's headed up to New Jersey, I'm going to be doing a few signings. The next one is at Barnes & Noble in Clark, New Jersey on Sunday, August 17th from noon to 3. And if anybody would like to email me, I'm going to give you guys my email, which is ballauthor@gmail.com. It's ballauthor, BALLAUTHOR @gmail.com. And email is the best way by far to keep in touch. And I welcome any questions or answers, and I will respond to every email I receive. I'm sorry I couldn't share the actual PowerPoint from the book. Today was a day of computer issues that lasted many hours. Still not straightened out, but almost. I call it ABNQ, almost, but not quite. So I'm doing the best I can, and I understand Peter's problems too. I'll turn it over for questions. If anybody has anything, I'm here until you guys are done asking questions.
Dan, I have, oh, okay. Dan, I'm Francis Kinlaw in Greensboro, North Carolina.
Francis.
And I have a couple of questions that might be I just recognized from your talk. you obviously put an awful lot of work into this book. And I'm interested in knowing, first of all, I presume there are plenty of pictures in it. Did you have to pay a substantial amount of money to get them the copyright or whatever it was to them, or how was that handled?
That's a great question. And I was fortunate enough that sports publishing has a contract with Getty for unlimited use of their pictures. Each author is allowed to use a minimum amount, like maybe a dozen or so, but I picked out what I thought were the best ones. So the answer is no, I did not pay for the pictures in the book. Many of the pictures in
Okay.
the book I took myself also.
Yes. And the other question I have, and if you don't want to answer this, I understand. Um, I'm struggling with the capability of operating a voice activated writer system. Did you use one on this book? And if so, were you pleased with it? And again, if you don't wish to mention names, I understand.
The answer is I did not use anything like that. I don't even know what it is.
Oh, really? It's apparently, and I don't know too much about it either. Uh, you talk into your phone and then it puts the text out for you, and then you can go through and proof it. And it's
Yeah, I've
fast.
seen that, and I did not use it for any of my writing. I've used it occasionally for transcribing tapes of interviews.
Okay. Well, I was just looking for someone who had used it, and nevertheless, even though you didn't, I understand. It's been months. I've been trying to figure out how to do the thing. So, at any rate, I appreciate your answers, and it sounds like a very, very good book.
Thank you so much, Francis. It was a fun project to write. It took years and years to put it all together, but it was a labor of love.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Francis.
Hi, Dan. Thank you for being here with us. You mentioned that Babe Ruth was on a barnstorming tour in November and December of 1934. Can you tell me if you know why only American League ball players were a part of that barnstorming tour of Japan?
That's a really good question. I guess because they were selected by Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig. It was their team. I'm not answering definitively. I'm not positive about that. I'm
Mhm.
guessing here. But I know Moberg played for teams in both leagues. So
Right. Okay. I was just curious to see if you knew, because I sometimes get asked that question at the Babe Ruth Museum, and I don't have a good answer for that.
that's a real good question. You could probably find out if you want to contact Bruce Marcuson at the Baseball Hall of Fame.
I know him. Yeah.
Bruce is really good. He's a great guy. He will give you an answer.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, Dan, I wanted to just congratulate you on making a career of writing about baseball. You and I worked together at AP in Newark in 1969, very briefly, and back in the ancient days. And I just wanted to pass along that, I'm still interested in the game, and I docent at the Babe Ruth Museum here in Baltimore with Mike, and uh, just my best to you and hope that life is good in Fair Lawn or wherever it is in Bergen County that you live.
I am in Fairlawn and I loved that job. That was my first job out of college, AP Newark. And I really learned a lot during that job. The hours weren't too great for me. I was working at midnight to 2:30. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, midnight to 8 or whatever it was. And then
Yeah.
2:30 to midnight. I mean, I never really had a good shift.
No, if you were like me, and because I was 1 year ahead of you and or behind you in college, that was um, not ideal.
It was
Downtown
great,
Newark
great to have
in
Bob Dubel there.
1969
Bob
was
Dubel was great.
not ideal.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, just want to pass along good wishes, and I hope that you have good luck with your book, and congratulations on making a career out of being a sports writer.
Thank you very much, Rob. And let me tell everybody who's still with us, take a look just look up the book on Amazon, The New Baseball Bible with Otani on the cover. Just take a look at the cover. I think you really like it. I'm sorry I'm not able to show it to you here, but just it doesn't cost anything to take a look at it.
That's a deal.
I was lucky when I was in Atlanta for the All-Star game. I was asked to sign my Hank Aaron book at the Atlanta History Center, and I gave a PowerPoint on the Hank Aaron book. They had a theater that had 100 seats in it. Every seat was filled, and a lot of books were sold. Both the New Baseball Bible and the Aaron book sold very well after that.
I also like that ocean you apparently own behind you.
Yeah, well, spring training is the best time of the year. Everybody is 0-0, even the Braves. You know, I was thinking that if I were the owner of the Braves at this point, I would promote Brian Snitker to general manager and fire Anthopoulos.
There were Alex Anthopoulos was also with the Toronto Blue Jays, but did not get along with Mark Shapiro, correct?
That is correct. Absolutely.
Yeah.
He was with the Dodgers for a while too.
Yes, he was with them as well. Yeah, and Mark Shapiro actually went to high school in Baltimore at Gilman High School.
Oh, I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Anthopoulos is a young guy, but he fell asleep at the switch. He could have made some trades at the deadline. He could have done something. And now he's going to lose Ozuna and he's going to lose Iglesias for nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, how much do you put, or how much of that do you put on him compared to ownership, or is it a little bit of both?
A bit of both, because you got to spend money. I mean, the guys he would have traded for, I mean, I guess he could have traded those guys for prospects.
Yeah.
But they're both having down years. How much are you going to get for those guys?
Yeah.
I guess he decided that he'd want to keep people coming to the ballpark to see those two players. It's possible Iglesias might come back if he was willing to take less money. I don't think Ozuna would come back because Baldwin and Murphy are going to rotate between DH and catcher next year. Baldwin could be rookie of the year, actually. He's having a really good first year.
Yeah, I was wondering, between that and Liberty Media, how much, I guess they both, like you said, share an equal part with that.
The funny thing is, John Malone of Liberty Media, his second wealthiest owner is Steve Cohen.
Yeah.
But he doesn't want to spend it on baseball.
Yeah, exactly. I never understood that. Why own a major sports franchise, and not want to invest and make it a winner? I just never got that.
Well, there are a number of teams in that situation. Look at Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
I mean, and there are other teams too.
Yeah.
Colorado, maybe. Colorado has money. I don't know why they don't spend.
Yeah, between the Munfords and the Robert Nuttings, that's questions I or you can't answer. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but you know what the problem is, to be honest? A couple of things here. They should never publicize salaries. I know it's done in every sport, but it's not done in the civilian world, in a law office or in a general store. Nobody knows what the other guy's making because it'll just create jealousy and friction. And that's what's happened in baseball. When Willie Adames signed for $182 million for 7 years, that was the first major free agent signing last fall. Everybody else's price went up. And look at what Adames is doing now. Bupkis.
Yeah, that's true. But again, just like you said, that will never happen. Salaries will always be published. Minimum wage salaries, I think, in the major leagues is what, $760,000. They're going to continue to publish it. Whether they should or shouldn't is, a matter of debate. But it's going to continue to happen.
Well, you know what they should probably consider doing? Instead of a salary cap, how about a payroll cap? No team can have a payroll above X amount of money. That way you can pay one guy $765 million and pay everybody else $2.50. $2.50. Some of the teams are only worth that much.
I think you know the answer to that question.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But we're facing, unfortunately, we're facing a major work stoppage after
Yeah,
the 2026 season.
I,
We're gonna
I
have
was
a,
tell, I was
we're gonna have a
telling
big problem.
I
Big
was
problem.
telling Jeff, who's a part of this call, the same thing. In December of 2026, it's going to be the fight to end all fights. I think what wasn't it 2 weeks ago or around that time where Rob Manfred walked into the Phillies clubhouse, and him and Bryce Harper got into it. I mean, they were nose to nose, and Bryce Harper was threatening to throw him out of the Phillies clubhouse.
Yeah, that's right.
They
That was
later kissed
a
and made up
preview.
and shook hands, but yeah, it was a pretty heated discussion over, of course, salary cap, and that's something that the players. Dan, I don't see it ever happening. I don't think you'll ever see a salary cap in baseball. That's just my
Well, it's
opinion.
gonna be, when we get to that stage, it's gonna be 27 teams against 3. The Yankees, Mets, and Dodgers are gonna be in a league of their own. Everybody else is gonna stick together and hold tight to this.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, when the next CBA agreement is up, and that's coming, it's gonna. I'm predicting a work stoppage.
Oh, big time, big
Yeah.
time. Don't even buy tickets to spring training or early season games in 2027.
Yeah. Watch independent baseball, I guess.
Replacement players.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah. Yeah. Who knows? I don't know.
And
Yeah.
that would occur, just to make sure I understand this. The work stoppage would affect the beginning, go into effect at the beginning of the 2027 season. Is that correct?
Yes.
No. Look what happened in 2021. The minute the CBA ended, December 1st, everything froze. There were no negotiations, no trades, no free agents.
True.
They canceled the winter meetings. Everything shut down the minute the CBA ended.
That's
So it
true.
would not wait for the spring training or the season. It would be immediate.
That is true. Yes, you're right.
And if you two gentlemen would give a tutorial here, other than the salary cap, are there other areas of contention?
They want more money. I mean, they're always asking for more TV revenue. I mean, all kinds of things.
Yeah. But yeah, it's going to be over salary cap. That's the main issue, front and center. There's no doubt about that.
There will be. I mean,
Yeah.
look at the minimum salary today, $780,000 for
Yeah.
a guy with no experience.
Yeah. Yeah. The 26th man on the bench.
That's right.
I thought it was 760,000, but I might be wrong. I might be
It
20,000
was last
off.
year. It was
Oh,
last year. It went up 20,000.
Oh, it did. Okay. All right.
In fact, these guys need the extra 20,000. That's like a tip in a restaurant.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go. Yeah.
By the way, since I'm speaking to the Baltimore chapter, I love the stadium there and I love the Babe Ruth Museum.
Good. I'm glad to hear it. And please come back.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, Peter has to invite me. I don't know if he's happy or not. He's under the weather, so I hope he's happy.
Yeah. Me too.
Next time I'll give you a full PowerPoint. This time
It's
I
okay.
had computer issues, so
Well, you're
It's
in.
okay.
That's okay. We're just glad you showed up.
Yeah.
okay.
All right, guys. Well, there's no other questions. I'd like to go to bed early because I'm still not feeling that great. Pay attention to your inboxes and stuff for upcoming events. And hope you enjoy the most recent issue of the Baltimore Chop. Was pretty good. We have a good solid team at our chapter, so we usually put out a pretty good product. And if there's anything else, Orioles, SABR related, whatever, you guys know how to reach out and contact me, text, email. I usually respond in a timely manner. So
I feel better. Feel better.
yeah,
I hope you feel better,
appreciate
too.
everybody's time.
Yeah.
Yeah, take it easy.
Just summer colds. Been through worse. So hopefully we'll see you next time around. And you know how to reach me, like I've said before. And appreciate your support of our chapter. And hope all is well. And whatever team you're rooting for now, post trade deadline. I hope they do well. I think I'm going to ride with the Tigers this year because I like their homegrown approach.
Great.
So Baltimore's done, and my Cubs have faded back to second place. So I think I'll probably go with the Tigers for the rest. I like to see some new blood. So
I'll root for the Yankees to stink further.
yeah, that could. Well, if Aaron Boone survives this season, I'd be very surprised.
Yeah.
They finally won today. The Yankees did.
Yeah.
Finally, they broke a 5-game losing streak.
And Milwaukee, smallest market, best.
Yeah. Yes,
that's
best.
great.
Yeah, more power to them.
Yes.
I like to see the small market teams. Obviously, I live in Baltimore, so it's a.
And the second hottest team is Miami right now.
Mhm.
I know they're over 500.
With Kyle Stowers leading the way.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Don't forget
Well, now
the Guardians.
we feel a little better now with Trevor Rogers.
Yes, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
He
Absolutely.
got the win again today.
Yeah, against my hated Philadelphia team. So
Yeah.
that was great. All right, guys, appreciate it. We could talk for hours, I'm sure. So
Oh yeah.
have a good night, and we'll see you next time. Down on the farm here.
All right.
Okay.
Everyone.
Take
Thank
care.
you.
Good night.
I hope you feel
Yes.
better.
Thank you.
Everybody be well.
Good night.